Hello and welcome back to the Inco and Megapot Summer Game Jam workshop schedule. So thanks to everyone who joined yesterday for the Inco introduction. We gave you a little bit of an introduction to the hackathon and the workshop series, and also we went through Inco a little bit. Today's session, we're going to hand over to Megapot. I'm going to do that pretty much right now, but I also just want to say if you need any more information about the Summer Game Jam, if you want to join the hackathon, go on inco.org and go on our blog. And then we have a super useful post there that will give you all of the information that you need. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Brian from Megapot on. Hey, Brian, how's it going?
Good. How you doing?
Very well, thank you. Great.
Yeah, well, let's we can kind of jump into this here. Let me get set up. Let's get going. Cool. Yeah, so we are Megapot. Kind of the vision of Megapot here is we're trying to build the internet's first global kind of like fully community run lottery. So it's ultimately kind of similar to any normal crypto protocol. It's open and permissionless. You can build whatever you want on top of it. And really, what we want it to be accessible to anyone and everyone, because lotteries are, we think a really kind of global game, and I think it's something that makes sense at global scale. Yeah, so before I jump into kind of what is Megapot, maybe just kind of chat real quick or give a reminder about the kind of what we're doing here with the hackathon. We have like a $5,000 prize pool. First prize gets $3,000, second $1,500, and third $500. And we're really looking for fun ways to either kind of extend or gamify the protocol itself. So can we different projects that allow you to like earn Megapot tickets through like gameplay or various achievements. Interesting like jackpot mechanics that can be built, either kind of like layered on top, or are there stuff that can be kind of like built around the jackpot or the protocol itself. And then also some of these things around like community pools, partial tickets, things like that, and just ways to kind of make the Megapot jackpot really social and fun. So with that setting the stage, let's get into kind of what exactly Megapot is. So Megapot is a daily jackpot. Each ticket is $1, and the prize pool itself is about 1.1 million right now, a little bit above that, which makes like the jackpot worth about 220K of that. We have about 10 different winning tiers, from like the top tier all the way down to about a free ticket if you match just like one ball, although I'll get into that a bit later. Yeah, like I was saying before, it's a global community run, so there's no kind of like money is essentially escaping the system. It's run fully on base. As we mentioned here, it's traditional lotteries, like up to 70% of the actual ticket sales can be are kind of like taken out and given away for the administration of the lottery, and also to different government programs and things like that. In this case, we're trying to return basically 100% to the community. So that's going to be split between obviously the prize winners who take the lion's share of a ticket sale is returned to people who buy the tickets. So it's roughly 75 cents, a little bit more than that, for every ticket that is sold ends up being returned to the people who purchase the tickets. There's obviously, we kind of have these backers who fund the pool, which I'll get into later, and they get a little bit of a share, and then people who kind of help grow it via referral fees and kind of front end fees, and that's hopefully where a lot of people here can jump in. So yeah, in terms of kind of what exactly these like different axioms are. So community funded, What I mean by this is that the entire prize pool is bootstrapped by liquidity providers. So, these are, can be anybody, can anywhere from, big whales down to people just wanting to earn a couple bucks. You can deposit into the prize pool and you get a portion of every ticket sale. So, it's right now about 12 cents of every ticket sale ends up in the LPs, as a reward for LPs providing liquidity. They're obviously taking on pretty big risk. If somebody were to win the jackpot, then they would be taking about a 20% drawdown. So they get rewarded based on being able to sit in this pool and take that that big variance over time. The core thing that kind of makes this all work is that we're provably fair. So, there's nobody kind of in the background pulling numbers out of a bag and deciding, who wins and who doesn't. It is all programmatic and it's all, transparent. So we actually use pith entropy to get our entropy. From there, by entropy, I just mean like a random number. And from there, we're able to kind of generate the numbers that, represent a winning ticket in the lottery. So that's, kind of allows this thing to run autonomously, so to speak, without needing, some sort of administrative overhead or the potential for somebody to kind of like insert themselves in the number selection process. The other, interesting thing is this is obviously global, as I was talking about before, and then instant. So if you have a winning ticket, you can get paid out immediately. It's not like traditional lottery. You get a winning ticket and you have to, if it's a big enough prize, you have to actually mail it in. If it's small, you have to like go to your corner store, turn it in and they'll pay you out. So this one, you win, tap a button, you have your winnings immediately. And then kind of going alongside this provably fair kind of ideas, it's fully transparent. So every action can be seen, when tickets are purchased, when winnings are claimed, when LPs enter and exit. So there's never any question really about what's going on. So yeah, at a high level, how does this work? So you've mentioned you've heard me mention numbers and things like that. So when you do is you buy it. When you buy a ticket, you're picking 5 numbers. We call these the normal balls. And then you're picking 1 bonus ball. So in total, you end up picking 6 numbers. And what you're trying to do is match, try to match. If you match all the numbers, you win the jackpot. If you match varying amounts of numbers, you can win kind of like lower prizes based on the probability of that number of matches occurring. We have a daily draw. So, in about an hour, a little less than an hour, our daily draw will occur. And then, we choose one ticket, basically 6 winning numbers, and all tickets within that drawing are compared against that one ticket to see how many numbers match. Like I was saying, there's multiple tiers. In this case, we have 10 prize tiers where you can win, from a free ticket all the way up to the jackpot, which like I said before, is 220K. About 1 in 4 tickets wins. And if you happen to win, you can claim it instantly. So that's kind of like a very high level of how this works. It's very similar to something like Mega Millions or Powerball, if you're familiar with those sorts of games. And so, yeah, like I was kind of talking about before, like a lot of these, what's nice about this is it rewards everybody kind of working to perpetuate the system. So it all flows back into like this community, right? So, players come and play. They can win, the chance to win like life-changing prizes. It gets paid instantly. And like I had mentioned before, this is about 75% of all ticket purchases end up back in the player's hands. The backers, like I was mentioning before, they fund the pool so that the players have like a big prize pool to play for, and as reward for funding the pool and taking on this risk of the players winning big, they collect like a small fee, as I mentioned, about 12%. And then refers, which is really kind of, I think, the audience for this hackathon. They can earn a cut of the fees. So when a player purchases a ticket, they get the referrer gets 10% of that ticket purchase. And then even cooler is if a ticket you sell as a referrer happens to be a winning ticket, you get a portion of those winnings as well. So over time, that equals like roughly 15%, a 15-ish percent cut for referrers. So it's I think a really good deal if you can kind of find a great way to kind of get people engaged in Megapot, and really wanting to play. Just like a quick kind of like overview, you'll see kind of, I think generally what, the people in this hackathon will be building on is the Megapot protocol. So that's the smart contracts. You can link up to those contracts with your own smart contracts or via, your UI, buy tickets. You can back the pool if you want. You can define like the referrer fee, or not the percentage, but you can define like who receives the referrer fee. Basically, anybody can operate on top of this, right? You'll also see, and maybe have seen, the Megapot application. This is Megapot.io. This is kind of our licensed gaming operator version. That's like UI that is built on top of this protocol. But the protocol itself is completely permissionless. Anybody can build. You can build whatever you want on top of it, with whatever restrictions or lack of restrictions. So let's like kind of dig into what this protocol is. There's basically one big contract that you'll interact with when you're building on top of it. That's this jackpot contract. And this is kind of where if you want to buy tickets, deposit the LP, claim winnings, all of those sorts of things, that's all going to go through this contract, to varying degrees. And I'll get into like, there's some other ways you may want to buy tickets later. I'll briefly talk about that. But this is kind of like the core thing. If you see some of these like core contracts over on the right, to the jackpot ticket NFT, the LP manager, the payout calculator, those are really great for like fetching data, but you won't be doing any like transactional interactions with those. And then we also have, as far as like the data goes, we do have an API that you can interact with, so you don't even need to worry about interacting with these contracts, unless, of course, you're building something like directly on chain, which would be great. As far as some of the other ways you can buy, we have different ways to buy. Now, I'll say this, like buying a ticket is a pretty gas intensive process. We have to basically store all the different possible winning combinations for every ticket. So that ends up taking a lot of gas to do, and there are limits on the amount of gas that can be used in a transaction. And so we have some helper contracts that help basically handle some of these kind of like these cases where you may run into gas issues, and then also just like some convenience contracts. So first one is this random ticket buyer. This random ticket buyer is it's basically, you just define like the amount of tickets you want, and it'll use kind of some on-chain randomness to generate some random tickets for you, and then it'll submit it directly to the jackpot contract, and you'll get the tickets minted to your account. This random ticket buyer is mostly focused on people who are trying to integrate on-chain. You certainly, if you're creating just the front end, you can do that you can use this as well. But the main focus for this contract was people wanting to integrate on chain that needs some sort of like randomness provider. I was mentioning before these kind of like gas limits we sometimes run into. That's where this batch purchase contract comes in. You simply kind of say how many tickets you want to buy. You can specify like specific numbers for those tickets, or you can just say buy me like 100 random tickets. And then there's a keeper system that will just, as soon as you submit that order, the keeper system will just like churn through those at 10 tickets at a time, basically. So if you buy 100 tickets, it'll be about, this keeper system will do 10 different transactions, and eventually all those tickets will end up in your account. Auto subscription's pretty cool. It's a contract where you basically define how many tickets you want to buy per day for a certain amount of days. So say you want to buy like 5 tickets a day for a week, you could go say, basically go to this contract, say buy me 5 tickets. They can be random, or you can set specific numbers you want to play every day and say like, buy me this for 7 days. It pre-funds the purchase. And then similarly, there's a keeper system that will kind of like buy those 5 tickets every day. And then we have this like auto compound vault. Basically, it's a way you can claim and immediately rebuy, claim winnings, I should say, and immediately rebuy tickets with those winnings. That's we have this as kind of like a convenience thing for people who are using EOAs. Yeah, you're welcome to interact with it as you please. And like I guess I haven't really mentioned this. Like all the tickets are, like I said, they're $1, but that dollar is really USDC. So it's the jackpot itself is all USDC funded. When you buy a ticket, you're paying USDC. Yeah. So as far as like what does a purchase look like? It's pretty standard. You're going to approve some USDC. You're going to define like an array of tickets that you want to buy. And like I said, each ticket is like five normals plus a bonus ball. I will say like we have really good LLM kind of skills. So and I'll show some of those later. So it should be able to get like a lot of be able to handle a lot of this for you. But yeah, you define just like the tickets you want, the user address that they should go to. You can define an array of refers. So you could do like anywhere up to 5 unique refers. So you can imagine you build some sort of like cascading referral system where a primary refer gets some percent, secondary another percent, tertiary another percent. Yeah. And then below that, this you define that breakdown, and then we have a source tag on this as well. So that allows you to kind of like say, hey, I'm the one sending traffic this way, and allows you to kind of like track volume and stuff like that. And yeah, so that's like the simple way to purchase. And then once the drawing is run, you can see which tickets won, and it's pretty easy to just like pass in an array of those ticket IDs and claim those winnings. And a lot of this can be handled just with the we have an API that you can access, or like I said, we have pretty good LLM skills that I think especially if you're trying to integrate on chain, can help handle some of those like data requirements. Yeah, I guess when thinking of like things to build, I think there's obviously just like interesting front ends, right? So like what are can you build a front end that is maybe like target a specific region, or layer some sort of like game on top, where then you have some sort of daily game where you have Megapot tickets as like some sort of like settling moment or some sort of like randomness or whatever it may be. Another thing that's interesting is like gifting tickets. Um, there's, I would say right now this is something that we don't really have. And it's, if you're interested, I have some ideas on this front of what this looks like. But at the moment, the only way you can only gift a ticket for the current drawing. You can't like give somebody tickets for a future drawing and say like, you can redeem this for a ticket later, right? So that would be kind of cool to be built. The other thing that comes to mind is also just, that would be really interesting, is just kind of like separate games around the contract. So almost like prediction markets. So let's say you could buy, like one number or like a string of numbers or something like that, where you could build kind of these secondary markets that allows people to even like, think of it as like hedging their, jackpot ticket position, or adding on, or maybe even taking on like more leverage, and in a lot of ways, like this, a jackpot system or a lottery system is similar to kind of like a roulette wheel. So you buy like, the equivalent of like a all black or an all red. You can kind of build some cool little like secondary markets, I think, on top of this as well. Yeah, and we obviously, like I mentioned, have a bunch of interesting skills and stuff you can use to help build all this. Yeah, as I mentioned, we have a pretty comprehensive set of LLM skills. One of our devs spent a lot of time building this, and makes it really easy to certainly, one shot a front end of any theme or whatever you want. You can find the root here, and I'm sure this is in some of the materials. Yeah, I'll kind of do a quick example of what that looks like. But yeah, you can do like relatively simple prompts to build an entire front end where you can buy tickets by choosing your numbers, or a random ticket, or auto subscribe, or whatever it may be. And just to like continue on this path, like what have people built? So Lotpot has built like a global jackpot UI. The cool thing that they've really done is allow you to pay in your like local currency. So Lotpot, they use a P2P on ramp essentially to allow you to buy tickets in any local currency, whether it's Brazilian currency, or India, whatever it may be. You can on ramp and buy tickets quickly. Blink.cash was a really cool integration. Basically, like a one tap deposit into on-chain account, and you can buy a ticket, and then they ran a cool promo where they also like got you 3 free tickets for depositing. I think they had like a ton of success with this in terms of like bringing users in, and more importantly, retaining their users within the app. So we have found that there's like a lot of value in Megapot as like a retention mechanism. And then a cool, this was actually built by one of our engineers. It was Pennypot. It was a way to fractionalize tickets. This you can think of this as like a pooling mechanism, or just a way to like offer cheaper entries for people. I think there's like a whole design space here around like games you can play around fractionalizing tickets, pooling tickets, all those sorts of things. But this was a cool kind of demo that was put together. Yeah, I can just kind of gone through this. But yeah, as a summary, it's like you can build anything on top of it. This is a very like secure protocol. It's been audited multiple times by what we think are top auditors. As I mentioned, you win 10% of ticket fees and 10% of any winnings that you of tickets that you sell. That ends up being roughly like 15%. Um, and then it's ready for you to integrate. Um, we have these great docs, this great uh, LLM skills that have been put together. I can just give a really quick demo on what that looks like real quick. Give me a second. Let's see here. Let me share a different screen. Where are we at? Cool. So I am in, we're going to join, make a demo. I can see this is an empty directory. We'll use Grok because Grok is really fast at one-shotting stuff. So here's just my quick prompt. So build a React and WagMe in RainbowKit app. We link the LLM skills. And what little twist I'll put on is map each lottery number to an animal. So you're picking animals, not numbers, right? Another way you can think of it is like let's choose your army for a battle or whatever you want to do, right? Or you can allow somebody to just like choose a random set of animals, right? So just a different way of trying to like reskin this game or this lottery. Oops. So it'll kind of like go to work, and luckily Grok is pretty fast, so it'll churn through this. But yeah, I really think there's like a lot of interesting things that can be built from just purely front ends, reskinning it, thinking about different ways it can be gamified. Could use some sort of like single draw, once a day Dungeons and Dragons type thing, where you're using Megapot as like a mix of like the stake and the randomness for your kind of like quest. Like I mentioned before, can you localize Megapot? Can you end up building these kind of like secondary games or like side pot games around it? Gifting tickets, as was mentioned, I think that's like a really cool extension that can be built for Megapot. So I think there's like, it's a very like kind of fundamental layer system. It's not very opinionated. It's basically just some randomness and then some determining kind of some sort of rules, some sort of like very basic rules for determining kind of like the outcomes of the game. I will also mention, I don't think I mentioned this before, is that each ticket is NFT. So it's very easy to kind of like, track, what owns what, easy to bundle together, do all sorts of fun stuff with. Let's see. I think we're getting along here. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's like really important to know. I will say if you're looking to build like an integration to deposit into Megapot, our pool is full right now, so you won't be able to actually deposit. We end up capping the pool so that we can keep, ultimately for our liquidity providers, a lot of them are seeking some form of yield, right? And if the pool is too big, then the yield can kind of die down, and that would then lead to people exiting the pool. So we're trying to manage that pool. So at the moment, it's a bit, it's completely full. But yeah, there's a ton of opportunities to build like kind of mentioned some really cool stuff on top of just like the ticket buying experience itself. Yeah, I can kind of just like wait for this to end. Yeah, Sam, I don't know. I'm trying to see if there's anything you would add.
No, this all looks good. But so you didn't want to wait for Grok to do its thing. I think this is one of the fundamental issues with vibe coding streams right now, is that they're extremely fun, and then whoever's building kind of has to sit there and be like, okay, and now the
Yeah,
AI is going.
fill some time.
Yeah, yeah, it's like a cooking show or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like we're not gonna like let that finish. We're basically just gonna trust that it would build something sick, or did you want to kind of
Well,
wait?
I'd like for it to finish.
Sure, sure,
It should finish relatively soon.
sure.
But
Sure. I mean, yeah, just
yeah,
to kind of like fill some air, I can kind of talk about the workshops tomorrow, because we have 3 of them, which is very exciting. So we have one from Imagine AI, we have one from Tamagotchi, and we have the final one from Send Arcade. So yeah, just keep your eyes out for those. And yeah, just generally really looking forward to seeing what you're planning on building with both Inco and Megapot. And I think Brian has given you a pretty good overview of Megapot and how it works. And he's even building something right in front of our eyes right now. Once Grok, I feel like Grok just did something. I feel like there's been some progress since I
I
was
think
telling you.
it's steaming towards an end here. It'll get there.
Right. Have you
Yeah,
run this before?
I have actually run this before. Yeah. So I know it'll build something meaningful. But I don't know. I think the interesting thing is just how simple the prompt is. Like, I think, we spent a lot of time building out these kind of like these LLM skills. Yeah, here we go. We're done.
Sweet. Well, yeah, I'll drop off again, and then yeah, Brian, you can maybe take us through this.
Cool. Let me just bring this up. Give me a sec here. And I will, oops. Let me share something different. And this should, bam, there you go. Just a couple minutes and you got a little game here where you can say, oh, well, do a wolf. We'll stay away from the bears. We're not in a bear market anymore. So none of that. Apes, gotta go for an ape. Elephant, frogs are cool, and I like crabs. And then we can go choose, whatever you want here. Owls are wise. So now you have your ticket. I might be doing this in a browser. I do not have a wallet connected. But in theory, you can connect your wallet. I don't have MetaMask, unfortunately. I don't think on this browser. Here, I can just shuffle to one where I do. And let me get this sharing set up correctly. Oh, whoops, that's the wrong one. Here we go. Here, so you can see kind of choose a bunch of random there, buy with animals, firm. Uh-oh. Says this transaction is like, oh, no, there we go. Okay. Uh-oh. Maximum per limit. Well, something messed up here, but it worked before.
Well, this is the wonder of live, you know, in life. It does. It's
this
not
is
always going
this
to work.
this is what happens when you have non-deterministic development, right?
Exactly. And this is why you should never code with AI, man. It's really
Yeah,
important. Uh,
yeah.
I'm just kidding, obviously. But yeah, I mean, let's assume this can work. And this is also exciting because Brian has essentially shown anyone who wants to compete for the Megaport prize something to build. And if they can get it working, I think that's going to be a sick project. So yeah. But yeah, Brian, I'm assuming you don't want to try like debugging live right now.
I'm trying to look at what's going on here. Like the call looks fine. Oh wait, what's going on here? Maybe. Let's see if there's like a quick. Maybe we can see if Grok will. I don't know. We don't need to debug this live.
Sure. But what would have happened is maybe you want to just tell us like, what
I
like
can show you what would happen on
yeah.
the in our app. Let's do that. All these different yeah, so I am on let's see I'm on our prod, my QA account. So if you want to play, come here, you can choose, like we have this nice sweet UI. You can choose choose numbers down here. I like the number 5. So you can like, let's do multiples of 5. And then end at 5. So you can make this your ticket, buy a ticket. This is that kind of auto subscribe version I was talking about earlier. I should be prompted to sign this at some point here. Oh my God. What is going on here? Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. Bam, here's my ticket. And this is what it would look like if you had, now imagine animals instead of numbers.
Nice.
There we go.
Cool. Nice. Was there anything else was there something you wanted to close with, Brian? Any final reflections?
Not really. Let me get rid of this. Nothing specific other than, I think this is like a fun thing to build on. I'm excited to see what everybody comes up with. Like I said, there's $5,000 up for grabs here. $3,000 for first place, $1,500 for second, and $500 for third. And yeah, like I said, I think there's like a ton of fun stuff that can be built. Feel free to reach out if you have any thoughts or ideas. Happy to kind of like jam a little bit. I've obviously spent time thinking about some of these things as well, like what can be built around this. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what everybody comes up with.
Great. Yeah, I guess we'll leave it there. Thanks, Brian. That was great. And yeah, just if you want to get feedback on your hackathon idea from people from Inco, from people from Megapot, including Brian, we have a Telegram channel set up. If you go to inco.org and you go on our blog, there is a resources post which will give you everything you need, including the link to that Telegram. I'd recommend joining, especially if you want to join the hackathon and build. And yeah, I'm just going to give you one last little reminder of these workshops tomorrow. There's going to be 3 of them. We've got Send Arcade, we've got Imagine AI, and we've got Kamagotchi. So those are going to be really good. And yeah, I'll catch you back here tomorrow. Thanks, guys.